at the beginning of Cal with you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys received $7.4 million in pre-seed funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Very shortly after launching, we raised 7.4 million.
Wow. And yeah, is that a rare thing in in venture capitalists, or is that like a common thing, pre-seed?
It's definitely a very, very large seed round.
Yeah.
For us, we jump straight to the seed. Some people start with pre-seeds. Most people are just raising like 1 or 2 million. But unique to us, we were in 2021 where it was the most bullish market in the startup land. And the important thing about all of this is not about the amount necessarily that we raised, but more about the fact that we raised it on a really good valuation because, of course, you don't want to give away too much of your company, and that is why people typically only raise very small rounds. But yeah, 2021 was a great time to really get some sort of good leverage almost against investors, and raise on something which is your own terms.
No doubt, no doubt. So I guess it would be cool then to just walk us through that entire process. Like, how did you and your co-founder peer meet, and what do you guys do to actually like talk to investors? What was like the pitch you guys offered to them? Like, it'd be cool to like walk us through that because to a lot of us, it's like quite like a mysterious thing to like meet venture capitalist people with a lot of money, these companies that want to fund you. So just like if you can just walk us through that process.
Yeah. Um, VCs is just a whole world, like I never knew prior to cow.com that, you can just jump on a few Zoom calls with people on the internet and raise millions of dollars that they just, hand you money like that. However, we really, like I say, jumped in the deep end and sort of learned a lot in at least the initial few calls about what it really takes, to raise good VC money. And the thing is cow.com had a tremendously successful launch. Um, Even though this was like a super basic MVP that I built in like 3 weeks, we put it on Product Hunt. It took over Product Hunt, Hacker News, Twitter, all that kind of thing. And because of that, like hype is what generates investor interest. And so the key to what goes on in every VC's mind is some VC has had the opportunity to invest in something like Netflix and they passed on it. They said no to the next big thing. And they will kick themselves again and again and again for decades and decades after that they never actually like bit the bullet and invested in that. So the key to raising VC money is simply just to convince people that you are going to be the next big thing. Now, obviously, it's very easy to see with cow.com that because literally everybody has some kind of need for scheduling, and like cow.com's like total addressable market size is absolutely huge, and we're here to connect 1 billion people, and in the future, every time you book a doctor's appointment, every time you book your car in for repair, all that kind of stuff, it happens on cow.com. And so the kind of narrative that we went with, because the product wasn't really there, product wasn't there, revenue wasn't there, but what we're really saying is we are tackling a very significant problem, which is going to place us to be an absolutely massive business. We often compare cow.com to Stripe almost, where Stripe powers all of the payments that go on in the internet, and cow.com should power all of the scheduling that goes on in the internet. And we're like subtly putting it in a way that investors feel like if they pass on us, they've passed on, Stripe effectively. And of course, nobody would want to do that.
So it was mostly about the hype that got the investors in, is what you're saying. You're playing on like
For
their
sure.
human instincts to not miss out on like something big.
For sure. Although it may not work so well nowadays. Nowadays, you need a little bit more substance behind what you're building. But back in the day, we really had like, yeah, this was the most basic MVP imaginable. Not even very good software. We had some signups. We had a few sort of paying customers. Nothing crazy. I mean, it was practically the size of like your early stage bootstrapped business. Nothing that would signal like, hey, this is going to be a huge company. But
Yeah.
me and my co-founder Pierre had a very sort of strong and clear vision for exactly what the company would do. And the interesting thing is, we're now like 3.5 to 4 years after that, and that vision has not changed one bit. We stuck with that original plan, and so when you sort of come to the table with investors and you really sound like you know what you're doing, that you have a solid plan, that of course does inspire a lot of confidence, and definitely sort of like brushes aside the whole fact that, hey, these guys have got like a 3 week made like MVP and a couple of customers. There's not all that much that's special about them, except they believe that there is because of the plan and the vision.
Cool. Okay, so you get the funding, and at this point, you've achieved something that 0.1% of people will probably ever, receive, let alone like that much money on a project. Um, What was the first thing, or what did you plan on doing with that money? Like, what was the first thing you wanted to use that expense on? Was it on yourself? Was it on hiring someone? Was it on subscriptions to specific software, advertising? Like, what did and how did you allocate that money so that in the future years you could like receive more funding and scale the company?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was, hey, can I quit my full-time job? One of the disadvantages with being a young founder is just no kind of financial backing, no financial security. So yeah, I was 17. I had a job which didn't pay very much for sure, and hence I didn't have any savings, and like I really did rely on that income. And so it's great if you're like 30 years old and you've been working a fan company and you're making 300K a year. Chances are you have some decent savings. You can like jump into doing your next startup and you have a float. I did not have a float. I had $600 in my bank account, and that was like everything to my name. My net worth was $600. Um, and so that was definitely very scary. So the moment the first check landed, I had a lot of anxiety around then. So I did wait for the check to land. The first check landed, and I sent off my resignation letter, and I was like, "Hey, I'm kind of to build something new." That was definitely one of the most memorable things of my life. I think that being a founder does create a lot of memories, but the best thing is going from somebody who is entirely dependent on your like 9 to 5 job, to being able to do this full time and quit your job. And then secondly, it was very, very slowly build out a team. So cow.com has never had a big team. However, that makes it all the more important that you make the first few good hires. We had somebody, Alex, who really was like super active before cow.com was even out. He was very interested in the project, even helped me a few times with some particularly difficult coding problems and things like that. And I kind of eyed him up as somebody that should definitely be working in the team. And Alex has been here for the almost 4 years now, the whole journey, start to finish. Even our second employee, Ali, he's also with the team still today, which is also very nice to. We bring in some wonderful new people all the time, but we also have some sort of very familiar faces who have been with us for the entire journey. And what's interesting to me, what's interesting to everybody that works at cow.com, is to experience this roller coaster that we call a startup altogether.
Yeah, so you spend that money, I guess, then on based off what you said, hiring specific roles at the company, which I'm guessing at this point is just engineers, and then
Entirely.
the rest you're just like having it, saving it for the future. What was the rest?
Yeah, so I mean, this is something where everybody has their own strategy, and ours isn't necessarily the holy grail or better than anybody else's. Now, there is an argument to be made where you raise the smallest amount possible and get by with this very scrappy, lean approach. Personally, I quite like to have a bit of a war chest. So whether it was in cow.com seed round or its Series A round, we've always raised more than what we needed to, only because the environment in which to do that was really good, and we weren't diluting any ownership to any sort of crazy degree. And what that means is either at our seed or at our A, we have first of all a guarantee of longevity. That obviously, with all the money in the bank, we've always had. I don't think we've ever gone below 20 years of runway. Now, when you're selling to enterprise customers, being a startup, they're always going to ask you, like, why should I buy your product? Why should I invest, in using and adopting your product when you could just disappear on me because you're a startup? Well, the answer is no. We have, very good funding. We have very low burn. And, even if we don't make a penny, we're going to be around for 20 years. That inspires a lot of confidence. It also inspires a lot of confidence in the team members that you hire. Point is being a founder is a lot of responsibility. People feed their families and things like that with the money that this company brings in. And so I think everybody sleeps a little bit better at night knowing that we can ride out any bumps and things like that. And you're still going to receive your paycheck. We're not going to be laying people off because we can't afford to pay their salaries or anything like that. So, in my opinion, at least some little kind of war chest is always good, and especially now at the later stage that we're at. Our current war chest gives us a lot of flexibility to go out there and do some pretty bold and daring things. If we want to do like a big marketing campaign, if we want to acquire another business and merge that into cow.com, that is stuff that does require having decent money in the bank.